The desperate knock. The night was quiet. The small house stood at the edge of a lonely street. Only the faint hum of streetlights filled the air. Inside the house, a human man named Daniel sat by the window, drinking his tea. His life was ordinary. Nothing strange ever happened in this place. Then it came. A sudden knock on the door. Soft at first, almost like a whisper of sound. Daniel froze. He looked at the clock. It was far past midnight. Who would come here now? The knock came again, this time slower, desperate. His heart began to beat faster. No one ever visited him, especially at this hour. Curiosity and fear mixed together as he walked toward the door. Each step felt heavy. He reached out, hand trembling, and pulled it open just a little. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. Standing there was a woman, but not human. Her skin was pale, with faint patterns glowing under the streetlight. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her face was streaked with mud and exhaustion. Her eyes, large and filled with fear, looked at him with a quiet plea. Her voice was almost broken, almost like she had not spoken for days. "I only have $3, she whispered, clutching a few crumpled bills in her trembling hand. "Please let me wash at your home, human." Daniel blinked, not sure if he was awake or dreaming. He had seen aliens before, yes. They sometimes walked the streets of human cities after the treaties were signed, but never like this, never dirty, never trembling, never begging at someone's door. He did not answer at once. His mind raced. Why was she here? Why did she come to his door? What danger followed her? She lowered her eyes, ashamed. The bills slipped slightly in her hand. She looked as if she would fall right there on the doorstep. "Please," she whispered again. "Just water, just to clean. I will not stay. I will not harm." Daniel's throat was dry. Part of him wanted to slam the door. Pretend none of this was happening. It was safer that way. Safer not to get involved. But another part of him, a stronger part, could not ignore the pain in her voice, the trembling of her hands, the way she seemed smaller than the night itself. He opened the door wider, still cautious. "Why my house?" he asked, his voice firm, though his chest felt tight. She looked at him. Her eyes shone with faint light, and for a moment he saw deep sorrow there. "Because," she said, "your house had light. And you looked kind." The words cut through him, simple yet heavy. Daniel hesitated. Shadows of doubt pressed on him. What if this was a trick? What if danger waited behind her? But when he glanced at the street, he thought he saw movement in the distance, dark shapes shifting like someone watching. His stomach turned cold. He stepped aside. "Come in," he said quietly. She gasped softly, as if she had not expected kindness, and bowed her head. She clutched her $3 tight and stepped inside, her bare feet leaving faint marks of dirt on the floor. The moment the door shut, silence fell heavy again. But this silence was not peaceful. It was tense, charged with unspoken fear. Daniel led her to the small bathroom. His house was not large, just 2 rooms and a kitchen. But it was warm and safe. "You can wash here," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. She nodded quickly. "Thank you." Her voice cracked. She looked ready to cry. The sound of running water soon filled the house, and Daniel stood outside the door, uneasy. He kept glancing at the window. The shadows outside still moved, closer now, like hunters searching. His mind raced. Who was she running from? Why did she come to him? And what danger had he just allowed into his home? He touched the bills she had left on the small table, 3 crumpled notes, the last treasure she carried. He felt a chill. What kind of life forced someone to beg with only $3 for the chance to feel clean? The water kept running. He could almost imagine her washing away layers of dirt and fear. But outside, the night grew heavier and the shadows drew closer. Daniel knew one thing. This was no ordinary night, and his life would never be the same again. The silent struggle. The water still ran in the bathroom. Steam curling under the door, Daniel stood in the narrow hallway, listening, his chest tight with unease. It should have felt normal. Someone simply cleaning themselves, but it didn't. It felt wrong. It felt like the walls of his house were holding a secret too big for them. He moved to the window, pulled the curtain aside just a little, and froze. There were figures outside. 3, maybe 4, standing under the broken streetlight. Not moving, not talking, just waiting. Their shapes were tall, their clothes dark, their eyes faintly glowing in the night. Daniel's heart thudded against his ribs. Were they waiting for her? Were they hunters? He did not know, but the sight of them made his skin crawl. Behind him, the sound of water stopped. Silence fell like a heavy stone. The bathroom door creaked open. She stepped out slowly, her clothes washed, her face clean. She looked different now, her alien features clearer, her patterned skin glowing faintly. She was not filthy anymore. She was striking, almost beautiful. But her eyes were still full of fear. She held out the 3 crumpled bills again. "Please take it, I promised." Her voice was soft, trembling. Daniel shook his head. "Keep it," he said quickly, his mind on the figures outside. "You need it more than I do." She looked at him with confusion, as if kindness was something she could not understand. "Why?" she whispered. "Humans never give without asking." He did not answer. He just pointed toward the chair. "Sit. Rest for a moment." She hesitated, then obeyed. Her hand still clutching the bills, her shoulders tense, like she expected him to throw her out at any moment. Daniel walked back to the window, pulled the curtain again. The figures had moved closer. One of them raised a small device. Its red light blinked slowly. Searching, scanning, fear twisted inside him. They were looking for her. There was no doubt now. He turned sharply. "Who are they?" he asked in a low voice. Her face went pale, her lips pressed tight. She did not want to answer. "Tell me," Daniel pushed, his tone harder. Her hand shook as she whispered. "Traffickers, they sell us. They take those with no home. No money, no voice. I escaped, but they always find." Tears filled her eyes. "They always find." The room seemed colder. Daniel felt a weight sink into his stomach. This was bigger than he thought. He was not just hiding a stranger. He was standing between her and something dark, something ruthless. He wanted to say she had to leave, that it was too dangerous, but when he looked at her trembling hands, the scars on her arms, the broken way she sat on the chair, he couldn't, his conscience would not allow it. Instead, he turned off the lamp, plunging the room into shadows. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Her eyes widened. She understood at once. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, slow, heavy, deliberate. Someone knocked on the neighbor's door. Then another knock, closer this time. Their search was spreading, their shadows moving from house to house. Daniel's heart pounded louder than the knocks. He pressed his back against the wall, waiting, every nerve in his body alert. Suddenly, a new knock came. Loud, sharp, right on his door. The alien woman gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth to stop the sound. Her whole body shook. Daniel raised his finger to his lips, motioning for silence. Then he stepped toward the door. His legs felt like stone. His hand hovered over the lock. Another knock, harder. The door rattled in its frame. "Open!" a voice commanded from outside, deep, rough, not human. "We know someone came here." Daniel's throat tightened. He did not answer. "Open," the voice repeated, this time louder. He looked back. The alien woman's eyes begged him not to. She mouthed the word, "Please." Daniel stood frozen, torn between fear and defiance. If he opened the door, they would take her. If he didn't, they might break it down. The hallway seemed smaller, the air heavy. Every second stretched longer. Then came silence. No knock, no voice, just stillness. Daniel dared to glance through the small window again. The figures were gone. The street looked empty, but he did not believe it. Hunters never left so easily. He turned back to her. "They know you're here," he whispered. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "They will come back." Daniel felt the weight of the moment press into him. He was only one man, ordinary, powerless. Yet now he stood in the middle of something far bigger. And deep inside he knew one thing. The night was not over. The struggle had only just begun. The truth revealed, the house was silent again. But silence did not bring peace, it brought weight. Daniel sat at the edge of his chair, his hands tight against his knees. The alien woman sat across from him, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders, drops of water still tracing down her face, her eyes red from tears. Outside, the street looked empty, but Daniel felt it in his bones. They were still out there, waiting. "Tell me everything," he said. His voice low but steady. She hesitated. Her eyes dropped to the 3 crumpled bills in her lap, like they were her last shield. Then slowly she spoke. "I was taken when I was young," she began, her voice hollow. "My people lost a war. Many of us were sold, not as workers, not as citizens, but as slaves, chained, beaten, traded like things." Daniel's stomach turned. He had heard whispers about alien trafficking, but hearing it in her broken voice made it real. "I ran once, twice," she continued, "but they always caught me. Each time worse than before, so I learned to wait, to watch until last month. I found a chance. I escaped their ship. I landed here with nothing, no food, no family, only $3 I stole when the guards laughed. I thought maybe if I found a human, they would help." Her voice cracked, her shoulders shook. "But no one opened their door, no one until you." Daniel felt a sharp pain in his chest. Her words cut deep. He looked away for a moment, ashamed. He had nearly closed the door on her too. "And now they are here again," she whispered, fear filling her eyes. "They never stop hunting once they mark you. They never stop. The room seemed colder. Daniel's mind raced. What could he do? He was just one man, ordinary. No weapon, no army. Yet the thought of giving her up made him sick. He stood and paced, his nerves on fire. "They are looking for you, and they know you're here," he said, half to her, half to himself. "If they come back, they'll break the door. They'll search every corner, He stopped. He did not want to say it out loud. Her eyes followed him. She looked so small on the chair, her glowing skin faint under the dim light, her hands tight around the money, as if those 3 bills could keep her alive. Suddenly, headlights flashed through the window. Daniel froze. A vehicle moved slowly down the street. Not human police, not civilian, something else. Dark and armored, the alien woman gasped. She knew what it meant. "They found me," she whispered, her whole body trembling. Daniel's breath quickened. He felt trapped. His house was no fortress. One push and they would be inside. His mind raced. He had 2 choices. Hand her over and save himself, or hide her and risk everything. His eyes met hers, and in that moment something shifted. He saw not just fear but hope. Fragile hope. "And he could not let it die, downstairs," he whispered sharply. Pointing to the basement door, she obeyed at once, moving quickly but silently. Her bare feet against the wooden floor. He opened the basement and she slipped inside. The door closed just as the knock came. This time it was heavier. The wood shook under the force. Daniel's chest tightened, his heart hammered. The voices outside spoke in their rough tongue. Words he could not understand, but the meaning was clear. Threat. Demand violence? He forced himself to breathe. He grabbed a tool from the shelf. Just a heavy wrench, useless against real weapons. But holding it gave him courage. The knock turned into pounding. "Open now," a voice roared. Daniel shouted back, forcing his voice steady. "This is a private home. Leave." Silence followed, cold, sharp silence. He pressed his ear to the door. Listening, faint footsteps moved away, then whispers, then quiet. He dared to look through the window again. The armored vehicle still sat in the street. Its lights off now. Its hunters waiting in the shadows. They were not leaving, not yet. Daniel closed the curtain, leaned back against the wall, his body shaking. He had never felt fear like this, yet at the same time, he felt something else resolve. The alien woman hid below, trusting him with her life. And he knew this was not just about her anymore. This was about what it meant to be human. And though the night was not over, though the danger was only beginning, Daniel made his choice. He would not let them take her, not while he still breathed. The chase. The night air pressed heavy against the small house. Silence sat like a trap. Daniel stood near the window, his hand still tight around the wrench. Sweat on his brow, every shadow outside looked alive. Down in the basement, the alien woman hid in the darkness, her breath shallow, her heart racing. She pressed her hand over her mouth, afraid even the smallest sound could bring death. Then it came, a crash against the door, wood splintered. The whole frame shook. They were not knocking now. They were breaking in. Daniel jumped back, fear and adrenaline surging together. He gripped the wrench tighter. "Stay quiet," he whispered toward the basement, though he knew she could not hear him now. Another crash, louder. The lock strained. A crack opened along the edge. Voices outside barked in harsh alien tongue. Heavy boots stomped the porch. Daniel's chest thudded with panic. His mind screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. This was his home, and she was under his floor. The door burst open. 3 figures stormed inside, tall, broad, their armor dark, their eyes glowing faint red, their weapons humming with faint light. Daniel's breath caught. He stepped back into the hallway shadows, his body shaking. The leader snarled, scanning the room with a sharp device. A red beam swept across the walls, searching, hunting. "She is here," he growled, his voice thick. The tracker does not lie. The others moved through the room, overturning chairs, ripping open cabinets, smashing anything in their way. The small house trembled with violence. Daniel's fear twisted into anger. These creatures stormed into his life as if he was nothing, as if his home was theirs to break. His hand tightened on the wrench. He stepped back, forcing himself calm, waiting. One of them moved toward the basement door, his clawed hand reaching for the handle. Daniel's heart stopped without thinking. He moved, swinging the wrench with all his strength. The heavy metal slammed against the alien's arm. Sparks burst as the device he held clattered to the ground. The alien roared, stumbling. The other 2 spun instantly, weapons raised. Red light flaring. Daniel ducked, his heart hammering. A blast of energy scorched the wall where his head had been. Fire and smoke filled the room. He ran into the kitchen, his breath ragged. He grabbed the first thing he saw, a pan from the stove. and hurled it with all his force. It clanged against one alien's helmet. Buying a second of confusion, another blast hit the counter, shattering wood and throwing sparks. The house filled with smoke, heat, and the smell of burning down below. The alien woman heard everything. Fear burned through her chest, but also guilt. This human fought for her, risked for her. She pressed her hands to the basement wall, whispering prayers in her language. Upstairs, Daniel stumbled, his back against the fridge, the leader's glowing eyes fixed on him. "Human," he snarled. "Give her, and you may live." Daniel's mouth was dry, but his voice came out steady. "No." The leader's lip curled. "Then you die with her." The alien lunged forward, but Daniel had already moved. He pulled open the fridge door wide, ducking as the alien crashed into it. Metal bent, bottles shattered, milk and glass spilled everywhere. Daniel darted to the hallway, his heart near bursting. His only thought, keep them away from the basement. He grabbed a lamp, smashed it on the ground. Sparks flickered. The fire from the energy blast caught on the curtains. Flames rose. Smoke spread. The house itself now part of the chaos. The aliens snarled, angered but cautious. The fire slowed their steps. Daniel coughed, eyes burning, but he did not stop. Every second mattered. Suddenly, from the basement, the alien woman pushed open the door, her face pale, her eyes filled with both terror and courage. She could not stay hidden while he fought alone. "No," Daniel shouted, but it was too late. The leader turned, his eyes locked on her. Time slowed. The red glow of his weapon rose, ready to fire. Daniel's body moved before thought. He hurled himself forward, crashing into the leader. The blast fired wild, scorching the ceiling instead. The two of them fell hard, the weapon clattering across the floor. The alien woman screamed, but she did not run. She grabbed the fallen weapon with trembling hands, aiming it at the armored hunter, her whole body shaking for the first time. The traffickers hesitated. Shock flickered in their eyes. Smoke filled the house, fire spread, walls cracked. The night outside seemed to hold its breath. Daniel's chest heaved. The alien woman's finger tightened on the trigger, and for the first time the hunters looked uncertain. The chase had become a stand, and the night was about to explode. The choice of humanity. The small house groaned under the heat of fire. Smoke curled across the ceiling. Shadows danced madly. Daniel lay on the floor, chest heaving, sweat and soot covering his face. The alien leader's armor pressed against him, heavy, crushing, but the glowing weapon was no longer in the hunter's grip. It was in hers. The alien woman's trembling hands holding it tight, her eyes wide, her breath sharp. The traffickers froze, red eyes glaring, but none moved. They had expected fear, not defiance, not from her, not from a human standing with her. "Put it down," the leader snarled, his voice low and dangerous. "You cannot use it." Her hand shook, her finger hovered over the trigger. Tears streaked her face. "I can," she whispered, her voice breaking. "For the first time, I can." Daniel struggled beneath the leader's weight. The fire crackled louder, smoke choking his lungs. He looked at her, forcing his voice through the haze. "Do it, or we're both dead." Time stretched. The room shrank. The world seemed to hold its breath. She screamed, not in fear but in rage. A sound years of chains had buried inside her, and she fired. The blast hit the leader's shoulder. Sparks and blood burst. He roared, stumbling off Daniel, his armor scorched. The others reacted instantly, weapons raised. Red light flashing, Daniel moved, faster than thought, grabbing the fallen wrench again, swinging it with desperate strength. The heavy metal smashed into one hunter's leg. The alien collapsed with a roar. The woman fired again, her hands steady now. A second trafficker fell back, his armor smoking, the red light of his eyes fading. The leader, wounded but not broken, charged forward, fury in his face. He grabbed the weapon with brute force, wrenching it from her grip, tossing it across the room. She gasped, stumbling back, fear flooding her eyes again. Daniel, battered and coughing, stood between them, his chest heaving, his voice hoarse but strong. "You won't take her," the leader sneered, towering over him. "You are nothing, human. Nothing against us." Daniel's grip on the wrench tightened. His voice cut through the smoke. "Maybe, but I am human, and that is enough." With a roar, he swung again, not at the leader's armor, but at the burning ceiling beam above. Wood cracked. Sparks burst, and with a groan, the beam collapsed, crashing between them in a storm of fire and debris. Smoke filled the room, flames spread, confusion erupted. The surviving traffickers stumbled, blinded, coughing. "Now," Daniel shouted, grabbing the alien woman's hand, pulling her through the chaos. They stumbled out the back door into the cold night air. Behind them the house burned, fire devouring walls. Hunters shouting inside, Trapped by the flames, the woman gasped. Tears streaming down her face, she clutched Daniel's arm. Why did you do this for me?" she asked, voice breaking. Daniel looked at her, his face blackened by smoke, his eyes steady despite the exhaustion. "Because you asked for help," he said simply, "and humans don't turn away when someone begs for hope." She pressed the 3 crumpled bills into his hand again, but he pushed them back, shaking his head. "Money doesn't matter, your freedom does." Her lips trembled, her eyes filled with gratitude she had no words for. Sirens in the distance, human authorities approaching, the fire lighting up the night sky, the trafficker's ship retreating into the shadows, beaten for now. Daniel and the alien woman stood together in the field behind the burning house, both shaking, both alive. "Both changed," she whispered softly, almost to herself. "Maybe humans are different, maybe. There is still kindness in this galaxy." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice firm. "You're safe now, and as long as I breathe, they won't take you again." The fire crackled behind them, but for the first time in years she felt the warmth of something stronger than chains, stronger than fear, hope. And that night, one ordinary human had made a choice that would echo far beyond a single house, a choice that might change how her people saw humanity forever, the choice of humanity.